that last spot here. Dade, of course, the king of spring, and Name for Royal wanting that last spot for himself for another final, but we'll see what happens in our first draft. M3 on the blue side for game 1 and EP over on the red. Lulu and Cho'Gath, M3's first 3 bans, and Rise and LeBlanc, 2 targeted bans at Dade already.
And it's all about Dade in our conversations, and also clearly in the minds of Energy Peacemaker. The respect ban on the Rise. We've only seen one Dade Rise game. That was against an LGD lineup that just blew him out the water with a Cho'Gath counter pick. We saw Rise on the winning end, though, of course, Korn bringing that out for Starhorn Royal Club and looking adept at it. Rise, of course, going to have a rework going into the future. Not sure how that's going to shake out, and we're not going to see it this game. That's the only certainty.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of scaling's been quite popular in 5.6. got a interesting ban, actually, for M3, given that, again, it's a big SMLZ champion, but maybe taking it away here. Very strong pick on this patch, so M3 don't want to play against it.
It just feels like they have a first pick they're looking for, and they don't want to give Urgot in the second round of picks to EP. So clearly they have a priority. I'm not sure if it's the Maokai, which is the last ban that comes through. What's M3 prioritized to ban out a champion they've already shown they have pretty good success on in terms of the Urgot?
And we'll have to see here, and it might just be that. We've seen it from SMLZ. We saw it from Candy previously. Maokai actually like as a ban. Looper shown a lot of strength on tanks in particular. Likes to be a big, not flashy, but just a big playmaker for his team as far as his influence goes. And M3 taking their time. And Looper, he's already got the Summoner spell selected.
Yeah, they're passing around champions. Teleport Smite, that seems to be the way forward for a lot of these top laners. I think Hecarim will be taken in the first couple of rounds of picks because people have really found success with a Teleport Smite pickup. You have to think this is a jungle pickup, though, as Gragas is selected.
Yeah, don't be fooled by Looper Smite. He's not the jungler, but probably just going to be using it for the skirmisher saber. But Condi going to pick up Gragas. We've seen some Grungle in the last week here, and that's going to be the pick for M3. EP, though, going to keep it safe. Kalista and Thresh, their first 2.
Yeah, it's surprising to see SNLZ pass up on Kalista. Kalista's basically must pick, must ban in the LPL. With Urgot being taken away, the best laning matchup against a Kalista has to be the Urgot, just to punish the low range, consistent damage. Of course, all about auto attacks, so only skipping around in 550 range or less doesn't really work out that well for Kalista, but banned away. Suddenly Kalista looks a bit more attractive in terms of a safe lane, and combining it with the Thresh, there's always the engage potential to go away with the disengage.
Yeah, would expect Nautilus potentially to come through. It's been one of the big support counter picks against Kalista, but M3 going to keep it aggressive, but not quite the Nautilus. Hard engage, but not the hardest engage. It's Graves Annie.
I mean, of course, Annie has the flash tip. It's a bit more reliable of engage. I mean, you can't really compare it to the depth charge, but at least in terms of instant CC and not giving the chance to flash away or move back when the depth charge is being channeled, that's a very strong bottom lane. Still going to be looking to prey upon. They're definitely looking with the 2v2 if they're going to log in Graves Annie.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so much burst. You just get on there, everybody flashes, then blows all your ultimates, and someone in the bottom lane dies. Hopefully it's the AD carry, but you can even pick on Squishy as supports, although Thresh a little tankier. Nari's going to get locked in there, and Jarvan, interestingly, coming through for EP.
The return of the Narvan duo after a couple of weeks out on the disabled list, I guess. They're back into the lineup. I do like the Gnar pick just because everything about M3 tells me that Looper wants to play Hecarim. Gnar versus Hecarim is a good laning matchup for Gnar, and Amazing J has seen so much success. Obviously so knowledgeable about both these champions. His most played are Hecarim and Gnar. So he's basically asking M3 to lock it in, and it looks like they're going to answer with an emphatic yes.
Yeah, I mean, M3 kind of, even without, seeing the draft kind of get to this point with these hovers, it was, I guess, obvious what M3 were going to play. One of their weaknesses has certainly been depth of champion pools, and when they have sort of gone off their path, Looper and Dade especially, they haven't looked quite as strong, and it is, as expected, Hecarim in Azir. I
mean, look, Hecarim comes back into his M3 lineup. Looper has been playing a lot of Hecarim ever since he moved away from the creative choices like the Annie top, moved to the meta picks. He was the first person to debut, starting off with the Flask and then picking up a big combat item like boots, like a cloth armor. From your first back after you pick up a camp at level 1 quite safely as the Hecarim just spamming out that rampage. He was thinking about going Teleport Smite, but when you're against Gnar, you probably need the combat stat of Ignite or to go for a very extended jungle follow. So the Ignite suggests to me standard lanes. I mean, you could see with the Graves Annie choice that's what they wanted, and the Ignite just confirms that standard lanes, that's what they're looking for.
Now, we've gone back in time a little bit, but just to remind you, this is week 11 of the LPL, not week 1 or 2. We are back to Xerath Azir.
I mean, crazily, you're just completely right, Pagestrom. If you told me this was week 2, I'd say absolutely. Although the bans are a bit weird, you might tell me this was a game remake and they just banned some champs at random. If we're talking about 5.2 meta, but for 5.6, it's a flashback, and Azir vs Xerath, we could see the 35-minute turret battles in the mid lane.
You can see right now they've both got someone to spell heal as well, so lots of defensive play, lots of wave clear there in the mid lane. And for Dade, honestly, who's shown lots of proficiency both in lane, but especially in team fighting on the Azir, you have to think a nice comfy laning phase suits him just fine.
It's kind of a strange team comp for Master 3 in terms of the AD carry synergy with the Azir. I love the Emperor's Divide to really provide a safe place for, say, Vayne or Kalista to go off in the backline. But when you got 4 divers and an Azir, it's going to be strange team fightings. I'll wait to see how it looks, though. We talked about this mid lane matchup already. It's going to be a long laning phase for Raphael and Dade.
Comfort champions for both of them here. Graves, Kalista, potentially quite explosive. Have to think that EP might look to swap away, but we'll see. And Annie Thresh, again, good hard engage coming from the bottom lane. Started to see a bit more of it with some control mages sort of dipping off in favor of sustained damage, but it's just going to be good damage everywhere. Again, it's kind of a flashback draft here for both teams.
And the priorities for EP will definitely come out on whether they look to elect for a lane swap or not. If they're really looking to build up this Kalista, you do want the lane swap. But if you want to trust Amazing Jay and his top lane carries that propelled this team through the LSBL, you could understand going for the 1v1 matchup. Nah versus Hecarim. He's already shown excellent potential in this matchup. Whichever one they go should shape this game. And Master 3, you have to think they're going to go out aggressive at level 1 and try and get that vision and information about the lane swap.
Yeah, just want to get ahead. Again, it's an important match for M3. We'll see if they can do it as we get straight into game 1. And welcome onto the Rift here for our first game between Master 3 and Energy Peacemaker. Last few games of the split are winding down here in Week 11, and still here for both teams, important games to be played in. For M3 especially, this is pretty much their playoff hopes on the line now.
Yeah, Master 3, the 3 points, the 2-0 will propel them guaranteed ahead of World Elite. It will end World Elite's late charge towards the playoffs. Still have to look over their shoulder to see what Starhorn Royal Club are up to. But still, it's one potential challenger eliminated and one more potential chance for Dade to get that chance to really show his wares in the playoffs.
And right now, lots of defensive neutral vision being placed by both teams towards the river. So not scouting for the swap, maybe just hoping in the 2v2 as Love City and SMLZ are already here in the bottom side. But looking at EP's comp, I love the Nap from Amazing J. You highlighted it already in the draft, but pairing it with the Jarvan, it's a bit of a throwback, but EP have honestly looked best when the jungler plus Amazing J have been able to get together for big team fight synergy. We had it before with Captain 57 in the Sedge. Now it's a throwback for Drizzle to Jarvan.
So, I mean, it felt like some teams have really solved the whole Narvan comp, but you look at EP's team fight here. If you get that Narvan ultimate, the Thresh gets in there with the box, that's a setup for Raphael to do so much AoE magic damage. And then you think, okay, look down the Master 3 line, look for disengage. Nope, it's a full-on engage comp with an Azir. You've got two melee champions, an Annie, and then a Graves who wants to get in short range to get the burst damage out. There is the potential, if Raphael has a long and fruitful laning phase, which often is the case with these Xerath versus Azir matchups, for there to be a lot of synergy and potentially explosive team fights here for EP.
Yeah, and Lupa taking away a camp there again, starting longsword this time actually, so even more aggression for the level 1 early jungling. Amazing J hiding in the brush, very smart stuff here, just stealthily soaking XP.
Yeah, so of course the lane swap was initiated here from EP. Zhangao and Zhu were very quickly up into the top lane, despite the fact they didn't have the aggressive lane wards for any information. The result is a 1v1 matchup, and now actually played in the AD carry role in a recent tournament. Should do just fine against Graves, who has the level 2, wants to get aggressive.
Yeah, SMLZ trying to zone out Amazing J, but the freeze will not last forever here as the wave will push back, and he'll get some experience, start getting some CS up, and should be just fine.
And of course, has no resource long-range farming tools in the queue there, so he's quite happy to just sit back and lane. Of course, we'll cede lane control to the AD carry who pinged level 2 first, but we'll do just fine.
Yeah, Amazing J popping back and down. We've talked about his mastery of the champion in both forms here, so just fine as Mini now right now. Roam squad, though, coming into the top side of the map, and this is dangerous here. The level 1 Annie with that stun, Lupa coming through, and a double buff Gragas here as well. They are going to move in. Who do they want to target? Either of them at this point. The stun does come out. They're onto Zanga. Lupa going to follow in, but no other CC there. And actually, Annie has to be careful. Gets ignited, hooked up as well. Ren will get first blood to Zanga.
That's a really poor engage by Love City. Needed to flash and ward that brush if he was going to use the Q for a stun. Interestingly, didn't have W, so didn't have the potential for an AoE stun. But losing vision, they were never going to have enough damage to kill the stun target, and then just overextend it into a wonderful death sentence from Zhu. poor play from Love CD and a must-win game for M3.
Yeah, now that lane, I mean, some free gold there to Kalista for the first blood and plenty of control there in the top side. Looper will be starved out for quite a while in this game.
Yeah, he definitely will be. And just very questionable engage. You have to think the communication wasn't on point. Graves doing a lot of trade damage to SMLZ. To Amazing J, sorry, and just has to hang back as expected in this lane.
Yeah, Drizzle does wander down, but there's a ward here already, and Annie has rejoined her lane mate there in Graves. So again, hanging out in the brush, might be looking for a stun, just getting safe XP here. That's the important thing, as Left City still level 1 after that botched engage.
But it's worth noting that because he was able to start Longsword, already very close to a phage in a jungle follow and then a late landing phase, has 10 CS. The Hecarim not being held down like we expected. It's just a surprise to see that with a Longsword start, you can navigate one of those early camps.
I think she was trying to match roam potentially from Annie, but Love City is already back down in the bottom, and as a result, we actually had Gragas move into babysit a little bit in the top side, and that's given Looper much more room than we expected.
Yeah, I mean, just on the minimap, hasn't been moving much. Not sure if he's actually been throwing out the barrel, but buying time for the Hecarim. Phage is such a big jump in power, scales so many times with both the health, AD, and the movement expect from the Rage. Aggression, though.
Again, coming in for Dade. Shu can line up the hook just wide there, unfortunately, as Dade able to weave out of it. Had the cleanse anyway, just in case, but a good attempt by Energy Pacemaker.
I mean, Dade showing the respect with the cleanse. To be honest, he's probably been the mid laner most affected by roam gank, so he's used to this by now, Pastry Time. It just hangs back.
Yeah,
Smart play.
Gets a lot of attention, perhaps some of it unwanted here in the LPL, but looking fine so far. Both mid laners actually with cleanse might be a shift we start seeing a bit more of, but we already talked about the heals being safe. Cleanse arguably even safer.
I kind of follow your logic. In terms of Dade's play this season, definitely hasn't been the Dade of 2014 or really his level around Worlds. So, I mean, unwarranted is probably a fair thing to say about all the attention to Dade, but the thing about it is if M3 can play around that, when Candy was really getting going, the fact that enemy teams were camping Dade opened up space for Candy to get super aggressive on the likes of Kalista. So it's all on Dade's teammates to really use the fact that it's predictable that enemy pathing will be around mid lane and take advantage of it in top and bot.
And Looper has got a bit of freedom here as a result, I suppose, but Drizzle's in the top side. Looper will spot him off. They're good trinket ward and some nice intuition from Hecarim to make sure he doesn't go down, but going to get zoned off the turret here. No flash or ulti available for Looper, so he can't get out easily and doesn't finish the fade. Just a couple extra potions here, and we even got Gragas coming back up to babysit again.
I mean, despite the fact that we talked about Gnar being a good 1v1 lane matchup against the Hecarim, in a lane swap, the other difference is that Rampage 350 range, the maximum farming range potential for the Hecarim compared to Gnar, who's able to throw out that Q, no resource ability, very long range, can snipe away minions. Sometimes you'll push in, so it's not always ideal, but you just have a lot more flexible options, and hell, you have a ranged auto attack.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different matchup here, and Hecarim always suffers in a swap. I think not just because his tools aren't exceptional, unlike Maokai, who's great in those situations, or even Gnar, who's fine. It's kind of a matter of, you know what, he has pretty strict item thresholds, and lane swaps just hold you down for that much longer.
And look, he doesn't have a flash, which, you know, you have to consider. The fact that he's actually up 7 CS with no flash, with a poor laning phase after the first blood was put through, a surprise, you'd have to say.
Yeah, EP keep moving their bottom lane into weird places, and that's actually opened up quite a bit of room here for Looper. Zangel returning to the bottom. EP possibly worried about the threat around Dragon, but a recall here for SMLZ as well, and all of a sudden we've got matching BF swords.
And look, Amazing J had actually gone back and bought, had got to the minion wave after it already hit turret, so it will start to reset in the middle, but was actually pretty fortuitous that he'd already walked and didn't have to use his teleport to pick up any waves. But with that member in the top, EP is still going to be looking to Dragon. They do have the teleport to potentially match any situation, but as of now, it's in vision of M3, but they haven't necessarily looked to contest.
Smart stuff from Looper, actually already roamed down. That might be the go button here. Shu can hook onto Dada, but Love City going to line up the stun. Thresh is dead as SMLZ snipes him with the ultimate, and 5v4, M3 will get the Dragon.
That ultimate was not necessary. No collateral damage needed on a level 3 Thresh. So low already after starting the Dragon. And honestly, that's just a free leash for M3, and they pick up the Dragon.
Blue buff here going to get assaulted as well. Love City going to line it up, but great smite from Drizzle as Raphael floats the last auto in.
That's really confident smite to be able to put it over there. Obviously calculated it well, so good job there from the jungler.
Yeah, really good mats there from Drizzle as they're going to clear out a ward in bottom lane. M3 rotating back in here will be 2v2 now, but no Dragon to contest for, so breaking back into standard lanes. Have to think this favors M3.
I mean, look, EP, one thing you have to mention, they do have the Gnar vs Hecarim matchup, so we'll see how Amazing J is going to be able to navigate top. SMLZ is already very low. The item timings are even, so at this point, I mean, he's already used his collateral damage unnecessarily. I mean, hindsight, of course, is 20/20, but unnecessarily, so it has to back out. So at least in the early lane phase, looking good. But Amazing J's low.
Great bounce there from Amazing J.
Ignite.
Gets him out. The Ignite gets him low, but not too much. Darren Looper played that wonderfully, but Amazing J just got out of the ulti.
Must have tanked turret to get so low so early in those trades, but look, he has the teleport. We'll be able to get back safely. Dragon's not up for about another 5 minutes. You feel like if he teleports, it'll be up just in time for Dragon, so no big penalty for EP.
Yeah, not too bad there. Amazing J does return, but no Fade completion. Just a bit of early components and some armor there, and the Fade coming through there is Dade going to go in. Amazing ultimate back over, and Raphael forced to flash the ridge.
That was a wonderful engage coming through from Dade. Didn't have to use flash himself, so has flash available. Xerath without flash, only cleanse available. Cleanse does nothing against the explosive cast gank from Gragas, so that's a big win for Dade.
Yeah, it's actually double displacement there from Condi and Dade as far as gank pressure goes. So Condi was in the right spot, ready to line up the ulti, and a quick flash forced by Raphael. Dade still on point with those mechanics.
Yeah, we saw the mini bouncy castle effect from just the Emperor's Divide. When that explosive cast comes in, both hilarity and probably death will come for the Xerath.
Good pierce, though, from Zang'ar, poking down Love City, level 5 now, so Tibber's not too far away, but slightly ahead of Shu, which is probably the important thing. These under-leveled supports in the early lane swaps. Always a worry, like we saw, of course, with the level 3 Thresh dying, but CS quite even, items even there as well, so things calming down a little, but Condi still hanging out in the top lane.
Condi's definitely been soaking a lot of experience. I imagine he is the reason that Lupa doesn't necessarily have as many levels as Amazing J. Going aggressive now. Condi's there.
Good E there from Lupa, going to move him back, but Drizzle's here as well. Will knock up Lupa, but Condi disengages with the ultimate. Amazing J gets low, but safe again.
It feels like in that case the ultimate wasn't needed just because their health bar was actually very healthy. Re-engage.
Good play there. Hook on a Love CD as well, but SMLZ diving forward. Fate's Core getting used. Knock-up will land in. Zang'ar low. SMLZ flashes forward. Damage coming through. Tibbers goes down. A double kill for Graves.
And I guess we can say it definitely suits M3, able to blow away the Callista Thresh duo. Flash not enough to get Zang'ar out of the fight. That's a double kill coming through from SMLZ. With the BS sold already, he's going to be sitting on a mountain of gold at this point. With Tibbers tanking, don't think they'll be able to take down the turret, but no rush to end the laning phase, to be honest, if you're M3. You want to keep preying upon this Callista Thresh duo.
And this is the power of Annie Graves. We've seen, Annie Graves. We've seen Graves Leon, we've seen Graves Blitzcrank even back in the day, but as far as high damage aggressive duos go, Annie Graves might just be the best.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, the flash is a big requirement to get those instant picks. No cast time on that stun animation when you use Tibbers or the W means that you always secure those ultimates if you're on point. Very hard to predictably flash that ability compared to the Nautilus ultimate that we were speaking about, and you see the power of the instant CC.
Yeah, and all the burst damage coming through from their early levels as well. So 3-0 now actually for SMLZ, starting off very nicely here. And we talk about it, Dade drawing attention, giving his other lanes time. Lupa's just fine, got his Phage, and Infinity Edge well and truly on the way for Graves.
And you can see that it's definitely working this game, able to solo out Raphael, force his flash dance, of course, going to be even more defensive on a defensive-minded wave clear champion like Xerath, and using all that pressure that he naturally draws, Dade. It's SMLZ this time that's able to take the advantage, much like Candy back in week 5 and 6. This is good play from M3. And after a bit of a shaky start, things are looking good.
Yeah, Dade following up nicely as well, keeping even, which is what he wants here in the matchup. Given that, I mean, it's hard to say now, but at least back in 5.4, Xerath was at least slightly ahead in that matchup.
I mean, Xerath definitely was one of the better picks against Azir. Azir was bossing around all the melee and short-range champions that were in the meta. Of course, Xerath, short range, never something that you will accuse of. Xerath has massive range farm opportunities. That's why this lane can go so long, is that it's very hard for a team to break the amount of wave clear both of these champions have respectively. Long laning phase as expected. Athene's is picked up though, and the CSing will continue.
Yeah, looking fine here as Condi's made his way down to the bottom lane, actually. Walks over his own pink ward, so not spotted yet, but knows there's a ward there and doesn't want to commit with EP playing very far back in the lane. Cinderhawk done for Condi. Have to think it's the same there for Drizzle as Gragas will clear out a pink ward, and things going fine for Lupa, getting towards his Sheen now that the Phage is completed, and Amazing J can't really bully him, just a slight CS lead there.
I'd like to see Condi use what has been a good start for him to pick up an Aegis. You might say, okay, but they only have one magic dealer. And I agree with that sentiment, but I feel like the only way that Master 3 can lose a fight is if the Narvan combo with the Xerath ultimate and all his AoE is confirmed, and that magic damage really snipes them onto low health, opens up the Ren set from Callista. It's definitely a high skill cap thing. It requires flashes to be down and a lot of other factors. But I feel like that's, at this point, the only way that Master 3 can lose a fight. So why not just go for that snowball Aegis this and really stop that threat.
Good hook there landing in. SMLZ will come in. Love City getting low, but the Bears down. Ultimate damage coming through, and Condi not needed. SMLZ, his 4th kill of the game.
And it looked like a lot of bursts. You might be forgiven for thinking that a crit came through, but that's actually the Berserker Greaves and just AD being built. The spells are definitely registering from SMLZ, and it's been a horror laning phase for Zhangao.
Yeah, and EP, even when they confirm the hooks, can't really afford to fight now. Got a massive Graves at this point, going to have that IE well and truly done. Possibly even a bit of a Snowball Avarice Blade coming through second, and items coming through. Love City finished the Makako Tabe special with the Distortion upgraded Mobies, and Condi comes in for another gank, and honestly, he's probably okay. Keeps going into lanes. No one's giving him a gank, but that's because his laners are just doing fine on their own.
Exactly. These lanes are winning. It's easy to be a jungler when all your lanes are winning to some degree. Of course, Lupa's struggling in the Amazing J matchup. Amazing J's been able to build up a CS advantage after being behind after all the early lane swaps coming through from his teammates. But Master Lee looking good against the bottom team, but Dade, wow.
Massive ult there. Drizzle, sorry, flashed his way in, but Dade pushes him right back out.
He pushed him out of ultimate range. That's how clutch that was. Flash, flag and drag, and then pushed out of the Cataclysm range. Dada, he doesn't do a lot of winning on Azir, but don't let that fool you. He's a wonderful Azir player.
He's been playing very well in the last few weeks. You can tell that playoffs are coming. He can taste potentially getting in there and really getting destroyed. His stuff as Condi down here, going to get the knock up onto Drizzle. Lancing will come in, but can't quite reach it in time. Flags and drags instead. Uses the Cataclysm. Amazing Jays here is why Love City will go down. Dade, though, coming in over the top with no ulti. Amazing J will get knocked back there by Lupa as Graves picks up a double kill now. Shu potentially getting chased down, but a good tally, but better play from M3. 2 for 1.
2 for 1 just when Dragon spawns. Zhangao's trying to get cute, but needs to respect SMLZ. Wait for this crit.
Yeah, Infinity Edge there as well. Damage
there it
coming
is.
in. Massive crit there, but Shu gets the grab. Zhangao collects the shutdown. M3 maybe can't Dragon now.
Yeah, just too much aggression popped out by Zhu. Finally gets back in this game after a horror early laning phase where he died at level 3 around Dragon. Shu gets the kill participation in that situation. Zhangao's gone for the awkward build where he's stuck between a Bloodthirster and a Hurricane. Definitely not going to have a lot of teamfight impact till he has both those items. And as you could plainly see, SMLZ has the reverse problem. He's just really damn strong, and that's kind of empowered him to play overly aggressive.
Yeah, Zeal coming through shortly as well, possibly for the Graves. Dade farming away. Going to have to go back and shop now. As you can see, these mid turrets very healthy with all the wave clear coming through between the Xerath and Azir. But Dade has the themes, been playing great so far, now level 11. What's his first major purchase? It's the Merc Treads, the Dade special.
The Dade special loves the Merc Treads. That's Merc Treads with cleanse and its flash still available. I'm going to say maybe that's too defensive. I feel like he'd just gone for a needless large rod or maybe in a blasting one, but perhaps he's not looking for a blasting one or a death cap as a second purchase, so maybe that was the right buy with the gold.
You have to think Zhonya is likely the item for Dade. It's been his standard Azir build for quite a while now, and you said it with the Merc Treads. Dade, one of the few mid laners that consistently buys this item. He's just a much more defensive-minded player.
And that's why, I mean, I always compare Dade to Wayless when we're talking about Merc Treads, because Wayless, he'll look at 4 enemy CCs like a Sejuani and all sorts of other CCs and say, all right, I still need Sorcerer's Shoes, need big damage. Dade goes the other side of the coin, really goes for these defensive purchases like the Merc Treads, was famous for doing this on the likes of Yasuo and Zed, the defensive boot choices. I think I'd much prefer this side just because if you're on a consistent damage dealer like the Azir, you're less about burst. Just get those Merc Treads because the more damage you do is related to how long you live. And with Merc Treads and Claire, it's going to live a while.
And that's true of a lot of Dade's champion pool. Even Zed, who's got great burst damage with the ulti, you get a lot more purchase, especially in team fights, just by auto-attacking people as Zed. So it makes sense that that sort of play suits Dade.
And it's just decisions like the Merc Treads that really opened up Dade as a famous teamfight Zed player. He was never pigeonholed into just split push and was wonderful at navigating team fights as well. I mean, you set yourself up for team fight uses. And I mean, the other thing to consider is back at the start of the season, when we saw Azir versus Xerath, we always talked about Xerath going for Zhonya's over the death cap just so that you had those aggressive initiation options. You're going to be so flexible to do basically whatever you want in terms of displacement with Flash, Cleanse, and Merc Treads. You're about as defensive as possible in terms of utility options, and he should live a long time to just use that CC that Azir has to complement the consistent damage.
And for Dade, who's certainly been a big playmaker for his team, no matter the champion, makes a lot of sense. Zen3 did get their second dragon by by the way, so 2-0 up now as far as that objective goes. A slight gold lead here for M3 of about 1,500 gold, but nothing massive at all, and everything's sort of quiet here, but M3 starting to slowly pile up advantages.
I guess the only thing is that EP do have a turret to 0, because that will actually start to extend the gold lead when they can answer that structure. Turrets are very safe as expected, as minion waves just explode in mid lane.
Yeah, Dade trying to get a bit of poke, but can't get close enough to the turret to auto-attack it. Or arise it there with his W. Raphael scouting around, got a blasting one, so probably a death cap coming through here, but we'll see what he wants to go for. Love City's found him though, Tib is down, instant cleanse.
There's more coming.
But now Looper's in here, Condi coming as well, and can't get out of that. Gragas gets the kill.
And you have to say, even with Flash Cleanse, what are you going to do against Gragas in a team fight? You have to feel like Condi is definitely going to be focusing on this immovable Azir, because Cleanse does nothing against the explosive class displacement.
It's the same with the Azir displacement as well.
Sure.
We already talked about it with the early gank that Dade attempted. That's the biggest issue with Xerath. If people can ever get on top of you, your effectiveness drops significantly.
And with Gragas jungle entering the meta, you have to question some of these Azir pickups. It looks safe, especially in the lane matchup. But with Gragas and other displacements being the vogue, it actually indirectly hurts Raphael on this Xerath a lot.
It does, as Dade continuing to farm away. Only 2 assists. We talked about it a little bit last week, but Dade certainly not been the beneficiary of a lot of kills when his team set them up.
They're going to be happy with a 6-1 Graves, though. He's got all the kill credit. Condi, maybe that's not the ideal, but Dade himself, he's going to be feeling just fine.
Yeah, and Looper now Trinity Force completed, so lots of first early items coming through for M3. Dade gets out swiftly there with the EQ combo, wanting to make sure he stays safe there. Looper still farming away, very competitive now against Amazing J, even though Giant Spell Spectre's Calphage, not too bad for Nara either.
I mean, you have to say, the fact that we haven't called out the name of Looper and Amazing J ever since they started meeting in a 1v1 lane suits Looper to a T, because he's got a Trinity Force with little or no interruption, and we could see an engage.
Love City coming in for a stun, but that's a Mega Neo trying to kill. Really tanky with the flash ulti there. Might save him. Looper just in range actually does get the fear. Gonna chase in, but the wallop keeps Looper back, but Amazing J burns a lot to stay alive.
Yeah, in the Mega Gnar form, about 800 health, even though the Ignite was already blown by Looper. Guess the cooldown was perhaps a little bit optimistic coming through. And speaking of optimism, Zhangao needs to exit lane every time SMLZ comes into it.
Yeah, Bloodthirster done and Rico Bow plus Berserker Greaves completed, so Hurricane on the way. Callista will be ready soon-ish.
Not going to help him in lane 1v1 against a Graves.
No, not the Infinity Edge. Has $1 million to spend probably at this point in the shop.
Dollars, you think, on the Rift?
I'm not sure. You know what? We'll figure that one out later here. As we do almost have the Zeal completed there for Graves. There he goes back. Does get the Phantom Dancer. Spends all those dollars.
Wow, that's a big item cap to be hit. He's definitely been the benefactor. You could tell from the kills, but the CS as well is very healthy. Amazing J, I think they need to stop trying to kill him, but they might get him this time.
They're stunning there as well from Tibbers. They're going to try barrel slow. Moves in for Looper as Love CD collects that kill. Had a second Ignite ready.
And I guess the second Ignite, but crucially in that case, he's in Mini Gnar form. Lower health total and resist. And maybe they're just focusing every turret except for Xerath, because they're much easier to siege.
Well, SMLZ's here now, so he's going to start to get to the business end of sieging here. Dade going to zone them away. Rise, I think, used aggressively on the turret. There you go. And they rotate in the Graves with the Phantom Dancer, able to take it away.
And that's the only really big significant change. You can't use the W to explode enemy turrets like you could before. That was the one thing, one nerf that stuck. But with the attack speed being increased, things are a lot better for Azir. And it's much a return to patch 5.2.
Condi here going to move in to steal away the enemy red buff. SMLZ will be the beneficiary there as he deletes it basically. Their poor red buff didn't stand a chance. Dade has set up a turret to contain EP for a little while longer, but just buying some time for recalls.
And look, Condi actually did what we spoke about. Bought an Aegis against one magic damage dealer. Now, if even the picture perfect Jarvan, ultimate combo, even the Thresh getting in there with the box, the deletion potential on Raphael is decreased to the point that I believe someone like SMLZ with the heal will live and be able to turn on the style. So it's a very smart pickup, respecting just a Xerath, despite the fact that your laner Azir is winning that mid lane matchup. Respecting the Xerath can only help Master 3 and opting into these mid to late game team fights.
And Condi's now even upgraded into a Locket of the Iron Solari now, so just a bit of extra shield helps against no matter the damage type, as well as Dade also gone back for a major shopping trip. Need to see Large Rod Sting, a big mid game power now for M3.
And these are very fleeting words that we have not used many times this season when describing M3, but they're doing well. They're thinking moves ahead. They're rotating well onto multiple targets when they have summoners down, and they're building and comping around the enemy. So credit M3. Good time to hit high gear when you're about to walk into playoffs.
And as we look over the other mid laner, actually, Raphael doing his best Dade impression, you have to think. We talked a lot about the duo Dade mentality and losing games with that Majias coming through, and that's what Raphael's opted for here.
I wonder what Dade's win rate is with Majia's pastry time in his career. Are we talking 20, 30%? It's always just a cry of optimism. It's always, well, if I get 10 stacks in a team fight, I'll be pretty damn strong afterwards. That's all Raphael can really hope for, because we've already discussed there's plenty of people, as an explosive cask, for example, with his name written on it.
Yeah, just right there, ready to be smacked in his face or back there. As 6,000 gold ahead or M3, plus the 2 dragons, taking out some nice turrets as well as all the outer turrets have been filled for a 3-1's advantage there. Dragon going to be taken up. That's their 3rd for M3, living up to their namesake right now in a very strong 25 minutes.
Yeah, the only gap in M3's page is you don't really feel they have the ward coverage to really supplement all the excellent aggressive plays they've been making. The EP's ward coverage defensively, it's not wonderful, but there should be more aggressive wards, barring the 2 pinks that have been snuck into EP's red side jungle.
Yeah, good wards there on maybe the wrong side there for the Dragon, but M3 confident at this stage, going to clear out a pink ward, get some aggressive vision down as well. That's the other thing they want to do, and possibly take away the blue buff here. Xerath has the ulti, might try and steal it away, but Dart is going to go for it, and he's going to get it.
So it'll be interesting to compare the vision denial that we see from M3 compared to a team that's on a similar part of the table like King, who have really struggled to turn vision into monopolization of enemy buffs and smart rotation. So far, so good for M3, but the sign of a good team, a top team. Because, for example, if we do see Master 3 hit 8th, which is the most realistic finish in the league, they will face EDG in the playoffs. They need to get their rotation super on point if they want to pick up any wins in that best of 5.
And right now, looking good, kind of flitting back and forth between the mid and the bottom lane right now, with Dade moving back and forth. Looper ready with his teleport in the top side of the map. No home guards yet, but does have boots too at least, plus a glacial shroud, so starting to scale up here as well. Looper might even have a turret available here as well, and he's just getting some free time in the mid. It's chunked down very quickly.
I've been continuing to think about these Gragas, because Gragas is coming more and more into the meta. My first thought was about the fact that he had ranged wave clear even as a melee champion, so we throw in some wave clear. But I guess one of the interesting things to consider is kind of harkens back to the old days with 60-second Gragas ultimates. The fact that he makes a poor sieging comp look better than expected, just because you could just throw out that ultimate, bounce people either towards your team for a pick or away from a structure, and pick out structures. So when you have high turret damage, like Graves, who can aggressively quick draw, especially when you're winning the game as landslidely as Master 3 are at the moment, and Azir himself, who does great turret damage with the attack speed he naturally builds up, you can see the stinger in his inventory. Gragas does a lot of work in those situations, just, again, taking a poor siege comp from a pretty damn decent one. He translates turret damage into turret siege when most champions, they can't hope to do that.
And Dade now aggressively poking Raphael out, kind of dueling his Sun turret versus the actual turret here for M3, but SMLZ rotating once again and finishes off the turret.
And this is a Xerath who's had 2 turrets pushed in at 26 minutes. That tells you how this game is going from Master 3. Has to respect all the engage, even with Flash and Cleanse up. It's always nice to see strategies to counter strategies that we've seen employed so often. How many times have we seen Xerath versus Xia in the LPL's 11 weeks? Maybe 20 times? Like, it's probably over 20. That's how often we've seen this one mid lane matchup. And finally, as the meta evolves, so do the counter strategies.
Yeah, and finally, 5.6, we talked about it. This game in particular kind of looked like a week 2 5.4 game, but, adding the Gragas in does add a nice element here to the comp. And just in general, Gragas from the jungle, quite tanky, great CC, and decent at picking on other enemy junglers as well. Just feels like almost a natural evolution of the Shyvana picks that we've been seeing.
You say quite tanky.
Sorry, I meant Sejuani.
He's so tanky with CDR and the ability to just pamp out that happy passive. He's just going to move away. He'll be fine, but there's the engage.
Happy hour, maybe not now, as Drizzle Cataclysms in onto Connie. Drinks his brew, though.
He's still alive.
Safe. Heal down as well as the ulti comes through. Raphael going to try and snipe it. It's SMLZ, the one who flashes out at the last second. Looper's in here on top of Zhangao, though, as Looper will actually confirm that next kill. Still running in. Dade going massive.
Wow.
2-man ulti back in there. Amazing J forced to get away. Dade still aggressive there as Condi gets the kill onto Na. That's 4 kills for 0. They're going to chase down and make it the full ace. Hecarim with the triple at the end, and M3 massively ahead.
Dade sees Azir engages that really harken back to his Yasuo days. He always saw the low health minions to be able to go in aggressive. He does the same thing on Azir. Wonderful engage. Prompts the surrender, and Master 3, they're looking good.
They are, and that's what we thought here. Dade You know, what's his champion today? It is an older champion for him, something that we saw quite a bit of in his 5.4 days, but rebuff slightly on 5.6. Okay, maybe not as good as it was back then, but Dade still looks just as good, if not better.
And the Master 3 cheer section has so much to be happy about, and Dade don't know how many Azirs he's going to be seeing going forward. Azir back in the meta. Azir definitely going to be a needed ban against Dade. Wonderful performance from him, and M3 in general. SMLZ asked about him as a player, looked very accomplished in that game.
Yeah, excellent Graves play there to sort of accompany the scaling solo laners of M3 there with Looper and Dade sort of powering up nicely. It was a very nice little comp there. Condi actually had a fantastic game on Gragas. I think for me, it's nice to see him finally coming up big as a player, and M3 looking good for that 2-0 that they need.
Yeah, the Gragas as an answer to the Xerath anti-siege definitely came through. I mean, turret damage, a lot of comps have that. Sivir comps, for example, do a lot of turret damage, but the 500 range makes it so much more risky to be able to get turret damage in. Gragas pops out that explosive cask and things look easy.
Yeah, great stuff there for M3, but when we return, we'll see if they can get the 2-0 and the crucial 3 points required towards playoffs. Don't go too far away.